Here's an update on the changes that are taking place in the next few months in regards to the NAR settlement. So, first of all, buyers are going to need to sign a buyer agency agreement just to have a door open for them. Now, this is really interesting because all of the clickbait surrounding the settlement suggests that all of the changes that are coming are weighed heavily in favor of clients, not dirty, sleazy real estate agents. This mandate is good, though, and it protects everyone involved, both agents and buyers, by outlining what exactly their relationship is. But honestly, I would argue that it is actually in favor of the agent if you had to choose a side. Most agents worth their salt get a buyer agency agreement signed before they take clients around and show them houses. That agreement in the past is what protected their time and allowed them to get paid at closing. But there are a whole bunch of agents who have chosen to play a little loose with this, and they don't necessarily make buyers sign an agency agreement before opening a door for them. That was in the past. That agent, of course, ran the risk of not getting paid for all of their services, which doesn't really make sense to me, but that is how some agents operated. And it has really behooved those buyers who just didn't want to sign on the dotted line before entering a house with somebody, right? But now those buyers are not going to have the luxury of being squeamish about defining their relationship with an agent. So that's really interesting. To my mind, this benefits agents more than anything, which obviously I'm not sad about because I don't like to work for free. But what we're probably also going to see is more companies popping up that allow you to easily book an agent a la carte. So you'll be able to book a showing agent to show a house for $50 or a showing or something like that. I'm sure that is going to be happening if it hasn't already started. And I don't really think that makes sense to book an agent a la carte like that unless you just really aren't sure who you want to work with yet. Or if you're thinking you're going to represent yourself on the buy side. P.S. Bad idea. Don't do it. I wouldn't do it for my own self in an area I don't know at all. So, anyway, agents will now get fined. They're going to get fined or lose MLS access for showing houses without having this buyer agency agreement in place. So if you're banking on an agent playing fast and loose with their money, which some of them do, or their license, that all may be coming to an end. You probably already know that another change is that buyer agency compensation is no longer going to be advertised in the MLS. And if you watched a previous video of mine, you know I'm very disgruntled about this because it's stupid and it doesn't make any sense. What it's going to lead to is more days on market for sellers and more unnecessary work for both of the agents. Because what's going to happen is buyer agents are going to have to call the list agent and confirm the buyer agency compensation before showing a house. Honestly, I don't know what problem this was meant to solve, but I do believe that this technical glitch has the potential to affect sales prices, like not in a good way. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, another interesting technical change has to do with the amount that is entered on buyer agency agreement. And I'm just waiting for the lawsuits that are going to occur over this one. So let me back up and explain that when you go to work with a buyer agent to buy a house, you're going to need to go over the particulars in the buyer agency agreement in order to even walk into a house, right? And in that agreement, the compensation for the agent is clearly spelled out because, contrary to popular opinion, realtors can't work for free. All right. In the Triangle area, my experience is that most agents value their expertise and their time at anywhere between 2.5% to 3% of the final sales price. And that's what is listed in the buyer agency agreement. So if the seller is willing to pay a buyer's agent, then great. They do that at closing and the buyer doesn't have to come up with this extra money, which pretty much always ends in a much higher sales price for the seller. If the seller does not offer buyer agency commission, then the agreement between you and your buyer's agent is that you are going to compensate your agent that amount at closing out of your own pocket, right? And so, for example, if your buyer agency agreement states that your agent charges 3%, but the seller is only paying 1%, you're going to need, as the buyer, to come up with the other 2% at closing to pay your agent. Now, here's where it gets interesting. For some reason, under the new rules, you are not allowed, as a buyer's agent, to take more than what is spelled out in the buyer's agency agreement. So, if the seller is offering 3% to buyer's agents, but your compensation agreement says 2.5%, you're not allowed to take the extra 0.5% that seller set aside to pay a buyer's agent. So what is going to happen now is that a lot of agents are going to be putting 3 to 3.5% as their agency fee in their agreements in the event that a seller is offering that much, although they may personally be willing to take lower than that. Now, the hitch is that even if they are willing to take lower than that, you can't have it in the buyer's agency agreement that I know of. You can't spell that out anywhere. So it's yet another stupid thing that is happening, but I hope that you understand it. The last thing is that these changes are supposed to take place in mid-June, but I have heard they might not actually be formalized until August. So stay tuned. Who knows what will happen in the next episode?